Hi, everyone. My name is Kirk Bachman, and welcome back to The Ultimate Dish. Today, I'm speaking with Jayson Simons-Jones, a New England native and CEO of Lotus Alpine Adventures, an alpine rock, ice, and ski mountain guiding company. Jayson has spent the last 2 decades of his life and his career as an outdoor educator and mountain guide, mentoring his clients through all types of challenging terrain like rock, ice, and snow. His career started at the age of 24 as an instructor with the Colorado Outward Bound School. He later moved into the AMGA track of professional guiding, becoming only the 95th American to earn his IFMGA UIAGM mountain guide license. When he's not educating outdoor enthusiasts, Jayson works as a professional writer and photographer with featured work in National Geographic Adventure, the New York Times, the Denver Post, and many more. Join me today as I chat with Jayson about what it's like to mentor in the outdoor world, how he's created his successful business rooted in the passion for climbing and skiing, and what it takes to fuel an active outdoor lifestyle. And there he is. Good morning, buddy. How are you?
Good morning. Thank you for having me. Super excited to be here.
Absolutely. That was one heck of an intro. I'm a little winded. I'm not going to lie. There is a lot there, and we're going to dive into it. We haven't met before, so I'm super, super excited to finally meet you. And we're going to kick it off with a little Crested Butte. You could tell real quickly, our guests will tell real quickly that we're in Colorado. We're both in Boulder right now. But Crested Butte, 2007 to 14-ish. Do I have that right-ish?
Actually, those were the years I owned my business there, but I actually stumbled my way into Crested Butte in 1998, I believe.
Oh, wow. Okay. Okay.
And I left in 2017. So I spent basically almost 20 years there.
Unbelievable. And and we have a connection there. My family moved to Colorado in the 70s, a little bit older than you. And I spent a lot of time in Crested Butte, and it's an absolutely beautiful part of the state. Beautiful two towns, right? You got Crested Butte, and then you've got Mount Crested Butte, where the ski resort is. And my family had a hotel down the road in Gunny, as we refer to it, Gunnison, for a bunch of years. And I'm just going to put you on the spot right off the bat because they're classics. Favorite Crested Butte restaurants that you can remember?
Well, I'm a little bit partial. One of my first jobs for a number of years there for me in Crested Butte was I was actually working as a prep cook at the Le Bosquet.
Oh my God, it's on my list. I can't believe it. Remind me of the chef's name.
It was Vic and Candy.
Yes, Victor, right off the bat
Yep.
there. Yeah. Wow.
So I'm a little partial to them. I learned a lot about life through, watching those guys run a kitchen, and French food and all that. Slogar, is a classic, but I'm probably partial to Soupçon and the Timberline as well. And the Timberline was around too.
And so I I have to share with my guests that none of this was prescribed. We didn't talk about this, but on my list, Soupçon, Slogar, Wooden Nickel,
Oh yeah.
Labosque, and Timberline. Funny story about Timberline and Tim. So Tim, right?
I do. Yeah.
And
Tim
Tim
and
and
Darlene.
Darlene, yeah.
Yep.
A little bit of drama. I think they had Timberline for what, 20 plus years, right?
Might have been. Yeah.
Spectacular restaurant, but I think the drama centered around Darlene being Heidi Blair Montag's mom. I forget what the television show was, but she was all the rage in the 90s, I think.
Yeah, even in the 2000s, I remember occasionally the restaurant would be shut down while they were filming whatever the reality TV show was there with Heidi in town.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I just love it. So, while we're on the stacked ranking themes, I absolutely love this. Crested Butte's an incredible place. And, when we got there in the 70s, I still bother my dad about this. Dad, why didn't you buy all the land surrounding Crested Butte in the 70s? But favorite runs on the mountain?
Um, let's see here. I would probably say third bowl off on the extreme limits on the North Face terrain was up there.
I knew you were going to say that.
Partially because it seemed to be in my time, I ski patrolled there for 5 years as well, part-time, but it was rare that third bowl was open. It meant it was a good season because it
Yeah.
was the
Yeah.
far boundary of the resort. So if we had time to open third bowl, it meant it was a really good season. So that's one. Carmen turns down International right below the Silver Queen there, in the
Yeah.
afternoon with the west facing light was always a classic too.
Oh, beautiful. So for third bowl, is there any kind of lift up there, or you actually have to walk over, right? Or is there a lift now?
Yeah, no, that's the same, the old North Face lift. And
Yeah.
you would
Yeah.
still kind of traverse and walk around there. So
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I love that. The knees are going, and I'm getting older, but I could still manage my way down Jokerville, and I'll just leave it at that. Some of
everything
the
at Crested Butte is quite stiff for the ratings, so to speak.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, let's talk about you a little bit. So upstate New York, that's where you grew up, right?
Yep. Yeah, I grew up. I was actually born in New York City, but my parents moved upstate when I was super young, and grew up in the Berkshires and the Hudson Valley, so kind of rolling farm country.
Beautiful, beautiful. And then and then
Um,
then you're not a native to Boulder, obviously, then, but when so just kind of walk through when you got to Colorado.
yeah, so yeah, I grew up in upstate New York, and I went to college in upstate New York too. I went out to Ithaca College in the Finger Lakes, but I grew up, being active. I played in all the team sports, football, baseball, that kind of stuff. And I grew up right on the side of a little New England Berkshires ski resort called Catamount.
Okay.
And, all the kids would go night skiing after school and parents would pick us up. So really like that was my childhood, was like skiing and snowboarding from a super early age. So as soon as I got done with college, I beelined it out west because I wanted to be a ski bum for a couple years. That's all I knew. And then I would figure out a career in life after that. So I guess that still needs to happen.
Yeah.
But
No,
and
but
you
that's
know
so
it,
where is the so I just love the growing up, and we see it a lot here. Maybe it's 18 miles to the closest mountain, um uh here, but I sort of had a little of that as well, and it's addictive. It's real easy, especially you know being in that Gunnison area. You could literally just step out onto your porch, look up at the mountain, and say, "Let's go." And I'm just really curious where the passion to stick with it, because obviously you've made a life out of it, you've made a business out of it. You're branded by big companies like Stio. Um, how did you fall in love with the outdoors the way you did, to the extreme level that you did?
um, yeah, that's an interesting question. I mean, I think as a kid, it was, I grew up without, iPads and iPhones and all that kind of stuff, and it was farm country. So as a sense of like a place to play, I guess, and be energetic as a kid, where you could focus some energy towards progressing in an activity and getting better and seeing some of the results and rewards there, is what got me into like skiing and snowboarding and that outdoor kind of stuff. And that's kind of what I followed, was my dream of really skiing. And then when I got out to Colorado, that's when I got more into rock climbing and mountaineering and ice climbing, and they were all basically like different variations of the same theme that skiing had as well too, which was being just absorbed in an activity where the rest of the world just kind of falls away because it requires the focus, um, to just be super absorbed, and then to be able to progress in skills and see yourself get better, as well as kind of be in tune with the rhythms of the natural world at the same time. So it was just those things stuck with me. I think maybe I had the ability to kind of focus on one thing and then at the expense of other things sometimes, and it was all of these kind of sports, I guess, gave me that opportunity. And I think when I was especially an impressionable kind of college kid, um, where it really kind of sunk in. That was the first time I went rock climbing. The first time I actually went winter camping. It was part of a collegiate course I took. Was it really, at that age in life, it was one of the few things where you, as a kid that was impressionable, I learned like the immediate consequences of my actions. Where if I made a mistake here or I did this wrong, I was going to be hungry, I was going to be in danger, I could be injured, And I felt like that time in life was a lot of people telling me, do this stuff in your college classes, and then you're going to need this when you become an adult and you have a career. And I had a really hard time um, kind of learning in that environment. And these outdoor activities gave me like instant feedback and consequence, and it made me really focused and just captured my attention
You know,
in that regard.
really
So
beautifully said. Jason, the entire time you're sharing that story, I'm thinking to myself, I've heard similar stories from students in our vocation, right? How
yeah,
cooking has driven them to a place of just stepping outside of the norm and just feeling great. And how did you mention the beautiful surroundings? So it's interesting how aligned your journey has been with a lot of other folks that I meet every day that are in this pursuit of passionate cooking and making other people happy. So that's part of it too, right? So now you're in a place where you're giving back a lot because people are entrusting themselves to your experience, your expertise, your guidance. A lot of pressure there at times, huh?
oh yeah,
A little bit.
yeah. There's definitely a lot of pressure. Yeah, they are. I think the giving back idea was like those type of experiences have offered so much to me in regards to like personal growth and confidence building and trust in others, as well as an opportunity to experience and see these amazing places on the planet that so few people get to actually see, that it's hard not to want to share that with other people.
Yeah, yeah.
And um and as well, I mean, this is probably even more at the heart of cooking, to be honest, but I've always kind of looked at it too as like it's amazing to go skiing in these places and climbing in these places, but you can't like stay out there. So it's more like what do those things teach you that you can bring back to the rest of life and other people, right? Um, and I can imagine that's at the heart of as cooking as well, as like you're presenting a dish for somebody else to enjoy in some regards, and all that hard effort.
It's the core of hospitality, right? It's the core of
Mm-hmm.
us being able to serve others, an expression of ourselves, right? So, no, that's really really well said. I want to kind of connect. You mentioned Ithaca College, and it sounded like you found what you needed to study there. Tell me a little bit about the field of study of outdoor education. What's involved with that? Again, my 12-year-old son's been in scouts and he's moving his way up. He's getting close to being an Eagle Scout. And there's some of that in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously very controlled environments, but still he's learning how to, take some risks, measured risks, and he just loves that outdoor world. What was it about that program that really stuck out for you?
Yeah, it's interesting. Reflecting back, I don't know if I actually needed an undergraduate degree in what I do to get to where I'm at now. And back, this is 25 years ago. The outdoor industry was much less robust than it is these days. But I think, like I said, I was a little bit of a lost college kid. And like I said, the thing that really stuck with me or resonated was this ability to learn something and apply it immediately. And I think what really drew me to the outdoors in that time was, I'll never forget, one of the first, I was actually in school to be a physical therapist.
Okay.
And I was taking anatomy and physiology and biomechanics classes, and they were really hard. And I was again being told like, oh, you'll apply this stuff years down the road, which was kind of frustrating for me to learn concepts and not apply them. Maybe I'm just impatient. And I had some friends that were going rock climbing and backpacking and getting the same amount of credit as they were in the outdoor program, and I was like, man, that seems way more fun. So I was like, I should try to so one of my electives, I thought I'd experiment, and I took a winter travel and survival class, and we went and went winter camping outside of Buffalo in some state park in New York in the winter. And it snowed a ton, of course, and it was freezing cold. And I remember the instructors forgot about half of our food somehow. And So we were all out there and for a couple days, and we only had a little bit of food, and everybody was kind of freaking out. And as people were a little bit, deciding what to do we have to go back? Do we cancel the class? Do we go get our food? It was kind of decided we would make do. And I just remember thinking like, wow, this is amazing. Like we just spent all this effort to come out here, and then one decision, and now everything is like immediate impact on our whole experience for the next couple of days. And that just resonated. It got me like really engaged, I guess. Um, because I just saw like the consequences of what seemingly would be a small decision, how they could ripple. And it felt like some people, I think, it scared out of the industry. Some people, it was too uncomfortable. But for me, it was just, it engaged me in the situation in a way that I hadn't been engaged. And
I
that
love
is
that.
kind of what sparked it.
I love that story. And we hear similar stories about that moment, that it was that moment in time when you knew, like, I'm okay with this. I've adapted,
Yeah.
and I want more. So Jayson, you hold a Colorado Blasters license for avalanche control, a level 3 certification from AIARE, both the IFMGA. You're probably going to have to fill us in on some of these certifications, but let's just talk about the avalanche control, right? Just right there. I mean, I don't even know where to jump off, pun intended. Like, what's that all about?
Yeah, so that in Colorado, especially at a place like Crested Butte. So that's where I got my blaster's license at the time, was when I got hired on ski patrol. And I think that's every young ski bum's dream, is to like throw explosives and go ski powder and
Yeah.
get paid to do it.
It's one way to look
So
at it. Yeah.
yeah, so I jumped at that opportunity. And Crested Butte, as you know, being such a somewhat of an extreme mountain and kind of, a little smaller, everybody, all the patrol there has to also do avalanche control work. So it really is a family team effort. And so having the blaster's license means using explosives to go out there and basically, like, hunt avalanches to make the place safe for the public. And I guess as I first got into Crested Butte, I started working for Outward Bound, and this was around 1999 in Colorado, and they had a very young kind of snowboarding program at the time, where they would take Outward Bound, teenage kids out in the winter camping to go snowboarding. And at that time, I had transitioned from skiing to snowboarding years prior, and there wasn't really a lot of people that had the skills to, in Outward Bound, to take people snowboarding. So I kind of got fast tracked into that role as an instructor because I could snowboard. But here in Colorado, that meant to take anybody in the backcountry in the winter, you had to be educated and savvy around avalanches, which, is not such the case in the East Coast. So again, it was that consequence thing of like, oh, I love being in the mountains. I love going snowboarding. It's amazing, but I have to learn these skills. Otherwise, these consequences can, happen immediately. So again, it was something that engaged me right from the beginning to be able to have to pursue this. And then I just went through all the classes and certifications and the trainings, and went through up to, I got my level 3, which at the time was the highest level, through the American Institute of Avalanche Research and Education. That's AIRE, which
Okay.
ironically was founded in Gunnison and Crested Butte.
Oh, that's awesome. Who
Yeah.
who knew? Wow. Wow.
Yeah. So that was founded in the early 90s in Gunnison, Crested Butte area. And now it's, that curriculum is offered around the world.
And so I was just going to ask, it's probably a loaded question. So, um, are there a lot of people that can achieve that level, or do people get weeded out? I mean, and I imagine it's not easy.
Yeah, I think people definitely do get weeded out for sure. Um,
It's like,
I
this isn't
think,
as fun as I thought it
I
was
guess
going
when
to
I've
be.
seen, yeah, it's a lot of work for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things, once you start to see what could go wrong out there, you can't ever unsee that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And therefore it's like always in the back of your mind that, I have to manage this type of danger or risk out there. So I think there is like there's some statistic that's roughly like 85% of people that take a level 1 avalanche course, which is the foundation, never go on to take another.
Okay.
And that
Okay.
might be recreational or professional, but so it shrinks drastically the higher that you get.
And did
professional
I
realm.
read that you continue your education? You're seeking additional education in organizational leadership and development. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I actually just completed a master's degree in organizational leadership here at CU in December.
That's amazing. Congratulations. That's
Thank you.
so you're a buff. What about Deion Sanders coming to town, huh? That's
Yeah, that's
it
going to
is.
change
There's
things
going
for
to be a lot
sure.
more Instagram, right? So I'm just the education part of all of this is just fascinating to me, Jason, right? So first of all, I'm only going to go to the mountains with you, right? As my life goes on. But how when I ask this question, how important is education in this field? Not necessarily for you, but how educated do we need to be as people that are recreational um in our mountains, skiers, and how can we get more education? Because I'm guilty of it in high school. We did stupid stuff that we should not have done, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I think I mean, obviously as a professional in the field, I'm a big believer in education and formal education, even for people that just recreate out there. Especially in the wintertime, Colorado is one of the more dangerous places for that. I guess these days, I think what's also quite cool these days is education is much more accessible as well regarding these types of activities. So
yeah,
you always
brilliant.
want to
Yeah,
know the credentials of who you're getting educated from. But, when I started, you kind of had to take some certain formal courses and show up in person and do that. And that was the only opportunity. And now, I mean, there's all types of little snippets on YouTube or like, um, people will build online kind of curriculum courses. Even people are even educating these days through Instagram and TikTok, I'm told, and things like that. So as long as the quality of the education, the person behind it's good, there's actually a lot more availability out there for that stuff, which I think has driven more people into the mountains recreating in a place like Colorado, summer and winter, which isn't necessarily a bad thing.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. What
but I
about?
think
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, but I think, being educated and not, going into this stuff kind of blindly or ignorant, especially when there's so much more available, is highly recommended.
And so, sort of connected to that, and this more of the emotional, coming back to that hospitality sort of theme we had earlier. When it comes to guiding clients, and I'm sure you mentor and have met a wide range of people with varying skills, right, all over the board. I imagine it's unbelievably rewarding to witness, I don't know, breakthrough moments, where you see someone who's experienced personal growth, maybe because of your assistance or your guidance or your mentorship. That's got to be really rewarding.
Yeah, for sure, Kirk. I actually think that's the coolest part of my job and my profession, and why I've done it for so long is not necessarily the activities, but the people and kind of the relationships and the experiences that we get to have. That I feel like because of my role as a guide, obviously it's a little bit of a certain economic bracket there for people that can afford to hire a guide. But a lot of times I feel like I wouldn't normally interact with these people just on the street. Like we come from different demographics per se, but now I'm on the side of a mountain and it's getting dark and we're in a snowstorm. And, I might have a guy who's a Wall Street guy or a financial guy or an ER doctor. And we're tied into the same rope together. And we're kind of equals in some regard on a team. Or maybe, I'm tasked with the responsibility of it. So it's fascinating how I get to interact with people like that and the different types of people. And that's really what's the heart of what I do more than anything else, is that person connection, being able to see people grow, like you said. At this point, 20 plus years into my career, especially, I would say probably 80 to 85% of my guiding is like a return clientele base that I have built up over the years. And we've had these relationships for over a decade where someone might have taken an avalanche class with me, and then, they got really interested in this, and then they started hiring me as a guide. And I look at it a little bit more as facilitating people's own growth as opposed to just tying in and like keep up with me and we're going to get you to the top and trophy hunt.
Yeah.
And it's been amazing to see them like have some goals, and then I see it as my role to help choose, when they come to me to up their training and put them out of their comfort zone a little bit to push them, and then they can go back maybe and do some things on their own that now their comfort zone's been expanded, and then they might seek me out again. And a mentor of mine, when I got into guiding, Jean Pavillard, who was arguably the first guide in the Crested Butte area, Swiss guide in the early 90s. And he was my mentor. I remember him telling me that it's really about finding people you can grow old with in this profession. And, as a 20-year-old, I was like, what? You kidding me? I'm never going to grow old. And he's still doing this in his 70s, I believe. And now I see it as well too with folks where it's like, oh, you want to form a relationship throughout their life as well as my life. Family happens, and children happen, and careers change and all that kind of stuff. And to be able to keep that thread going through all those things. And, I can say that some of the folks that I was originally hired as an educator or guide for are some of my really closest friends now, because we've kind of grown together a bunch.
No, I love that story. So well said. As you were talking, I was, thinking about, and even in my industry, in the restaurant industry, the hospitality industry, school industry, return customers are the best, right?
Yeah.
Those are free leads, right? If you think about it that way, yeah, they keep coming. Are there any particular, or maybe even one particular sort of characteristic or quality of that 80% that keeps coming back? Not to compare it to you, but what is that one thing that a person really needs to possess to have a good experience in this type of pursuit?
Man, that's an excellent question. I think a lot of them are, and I hate to, be too generic, I guess, or generalize on people, but it seems like they are also driven folks, and maybe industry leaders or entrepreneurs in their own realms, or in leadership positions in their own careers outside of doing things with me in the mountains. And then because of that, it's a passion of theirs, like a hobby, a recreational hobby, but they want to really experience it at a high level. And I think because their other job demands so much, either, if they're in charge of an organization or an emergency room of folks or whatever it might be, they don't have the time to, do all the requisite kind of research on places to go and things to do. So they can afford to hire someone like me to do that stuff for us. But then they also have this passion where they want to continue to evolve. So I guess like the underlying theme of it all is it guides, as well as the people we take out and educators and the people that we teach to, is it's people that just want to continue to learn and get better and grow as individuals, which
That's such
is so inspiring to be around.
Yeah, such a great response, and very astute, right? That you recognize that. I love that. I keep coming with the hard questions. It's a
I love
fascinating.
it.
You're fascinating. I love the background in Crested Butte. It's just very near and dear to me. Um, like if you were to give advice to someone, whether it's a 12-year-old or maybe that investment banker who can afford to hire Jayson, but just really, really digs it and maybe wants to do more. Is there some advice? Is there some, hey, you should temper yourself into this, or you should just go for it? Or, is there a path of of examples before? I mean, you've given your entire life to this, and you remember the time that it started, right? And people get really excited about, you mentioned it, social media. I mean, you see stuff on social media today and people believe they can do anything, right?
Right.
Um, but what would be your advice to me if I wanted to climb Mount Evans, or something? What would be that simple advice?
I would probably first ask why, to be honest. Like what is it that drives
Good
you?
question. Good question. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
like what is it that's driving you to do that? And and then deconstruct things from there, I guess. And because it really is, I mean, I know it's super cliche to say it's, you know, it's the journey, it's not the destination, but it really is like all of this stuff is hard. As a career, this has been incredibly hard and challenging to put together. And as well as like, it's incredibly uncomfortable to be out in the mountains, you know, in the cold and the weather and all that kind of stuff and waking up at 1 a.m. So there's all these like difficulties and challenges along the way. So I think if you are real clear on the why and the purpose that's driving you, then it allows you to kind of take those things in stride and accept them a little bit. But if you're solely focused on the achievement component of it, to be able to um, just kind of hang that as a feather in the cap, and then those things along the way that it takes to get there, I think, are what become much more overbearing and too difficult, and that tends to derail folks along the way. And you know, even in my career over 20 years, I've had to have a few heart to hearts with myself on what is driving me right now to continue to want to do these things, to go through all these discomforts and difficulties. And is it, I've had to kind of circle back a few times, and I think most folks in my profession have probably had to do that as well too, where it's really getting clear on what's the purpose behind wanting to do this.
Now, it's a great response. And I think it'll resonate well with student listeners as well. It's a great question to ask. It's pretty simple, and it's really
Yeah.
on you. Why? You know, why is this important to you? Why are you going to do it that way?
Yeah, and I can totally imagine it, having been in kitchens as well too, where it shows up in the finished product, and it
Yeah.
does as a guide, it does as a climber or a skier. Like if you are really clear on the purpose that's driving you, on why you want to go through all this stuff, then it comes through in what you and how you approach the endeavor, I guess. Where if it's a little bit more of a shallow, you just want the achievement of it, it kind of shows when the you go through how you're trying to achieve the product, and
No,
it's just it's not as good.
that's TikTok real material right there, Jason. That's good. I absolutely love that. Hey, can we talk about Stio for just a bit? I see the hat, and
Yeah.
I mean, I have to share the story. So, again, you know, I'm Colorado through and through, and maybe with a little Jackson Hole thrown in there, and I absolutely, you know, I just love the lifestyle and the apparel and the you know the activity outdoors and all of that, and you know, I get the catalog and I'm reading this fascinating article, and it's you, and you know, I dig a little deeper and you know go to your website, and I'm like, oh my God, Crested Butte and all that, and then I ping you on Instagram. It's amazing today how you can just do that. I just shoot you a quick note and introduce myself, and we start talking, and you know, I would love for you to talk a little bit about what you know what sponsorship means. Talk about Steel a little bit. It's my favorite brand, hands down. I love their approach to marketing and branding, and you know Jackson Hole, super cool place, all of that. But is is this brand you to the core as well? Is this a match made in heaven?
um, Maybe that's a good question. You know, it's interesting. My connection with Stio, I mean, I agree, and the reason why I choose to be involved with them these days is they seem to be quite authentic in what they're doing. You know,
Oh, great word. Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
they're trying to sell kind of the mountain lifestyle culture and do it. They're also doing it quite consciously and organically, and it's genuine. And I really appreciate that. That really resonates with me. Um, and I came about them through via Crested Butte as well, ironically. So you know, I worked my way through different jobs in that valley, doing all sorts of things. I was shoveling snow, working in a kitchen, driving shuttles from the airport, and started working for Outward Bound, and then ski patrolling, and then I started working as a guide there, and then I eventually took over the guiding company from the owner previous to me in 2007, Crested Butte Mountain Guides. And at the time, our apparel for the guides was Cloudveil, and a lot of
Sure.
people don't know this, but Cloudveil is that's Stio. It's the same founder.
Oh,
And
okay. Okay.
um, so I had the connection with Cloudveil, and they had created kind of these first soft shell type materials, which for ski guiding things in the winter in Colorado is perfect. And then I'd always kind of kept an eye on that, I guess. And then when Stio was founded, I immediately reached out to them, and they were like too small. They're like, we don't have an athlete program, and said okay, and kind of went, got involved with some bigger, very international outdoor brands, and just basically for the guiding company to outfit people and have that recognition. But I always kind of had my eye on what was happening with Stio, because I knew it was the same founder, and it was in Jackson Hole, and then it continued to grow. I took a chance and reached out to them and said, hey, I've been, and I dug through my emails from like one of those original emails back in 2010 or 11,
Wow.
and
Wow.
resent it and was like, hey, this was me, 10 years ago, and started having some conversations and connected and got on the team, and I love it. I think they are doing what they can, like I said, to really represent who they are as well. A small Jackson Hole company that is focused on outdoor apparel, in a authentic and kind of conscious and genuine way, and selling the lifestyle, because that is what drives so many folks to those types of communities in a place like Crested, Butte, or Jackson or whatever. It's like it's about living this certain kind of lifestyle. And I know I gave up a lot of roads in my life to go live that ski bum lifestyle in the beginning, and then the guiding lifestyle, and it's hard. So it's yeah, I think they do a good job of representing that, and I feel honored to be a part of that voice.
Now, congratulations. And you know what I love about it, to leverage the why conversation a little bit. I feel when I open up, I get a little excited. I get the Stio catalog, right? And it's not really about, hey, we sell outdoor apparel, we sell this. What they do is explain the why, right? So they have a
Yeah,
little piece on you and others, right? They feature
yeah,
different people. They focus on that outdoor lifestyle. That's the why, right? And oh, by the way, we also have all this cool stuff that you can, get if you want while you experience that lifestyle. And it's a very, I love your word, authentic. That's an authentic, genuine, honest, transparent way to engage people to fall in love with your brand. And we kind of try to do that at
yeah,
Escoffier as well. It's like the why is what in your heart, right? That's why you want to pursue a career in cooking, because you want to make people happy. You want to cook good food. You want to do cool things for the environment, sustainability, food waste, all those things, right? And by the way, I'm going to be a great chef, that kind of thing. So,
yeah.
thanks for that, and congratulations all the way um, with that brand. I think it's phenomenal. But I got so many more questions. If you can hang with me for a few minutes,
Yeah.
I you know I'm going to preface this by the experience of mountain life, right? Very personal. You spend a great deal of time up in the mountains, as you've shared, guiding others, different terrains, and I imagine it's brutal up there at times. I mean, you can't dictate what the weather is going to want to, particularly in Colorado, right? There's a lot of wear and tear on the body,
Mhm.
and I'm sure there's some mental fortitude that you have to endure um, some uncomfortable environments, and with people that you're entrusted to, right? So, for the audience, is there any way, not to get too silly, but can you walk us through a day in your life? I'm interested in nutrition and exercise, and where's the stamina come from? Where's the mind health? Like, what do you do for yourself? Are you plant-based? Do you drink a ton of water? Do you exercise every day? Like, what's the
Uh,
secret here?
that's a great question. And, I can say it's evolved a lot over my career. Um, and I've probably gotten better at all those things, and it's changed a little bit. So I think now, 20 years into the career, I'm able to more consciously think about a lot of those other things, as opposed to just when I was younger in this career. It's a lot of like, you take as much work as you can get. It's like a scarcity mindset, and
Uh-huh.
therefore personal health and all that stuff goes out the window, and you're running completely on passion and excitement for experience. And I made it through. to a point where now I can consciously be a little bit more direct in what I do and choose. But I would say, like, if I could do it over again, I would have maybe not felt so fearful about that scarcity mindset in my early days, so to speak. But to answer your question and to come around today, it depends a little bit on the activities as well. So, like, we're in winter now. So, for example, if it was like a day of backcountry ski guiding or an avalanche course, I would usually meet folks at 8 in the morning or something like that, wherever it might be, and I'll probably be up at 5:30 or so. Or one thing for me that's really helpful is the mental part, like you said, is like just to get up and have a cup of coffee and sit down kind of quietly and just like have a little bit of some quiet time, just 20 minutes with a cup of coffee to like prep myself mentally for the day. I hate rushing out the door. It just makes me feel like the whole day I'm behind, no matter, even if I'm not. So it helps me set a little bit more of a clear mindset. I've done quite a bit of meditation over the years as well too. So it's what I try to bring into the day. And then I might start looking at the weather reports and the avalanche forecast for the day and what the things are going to be like, and then start choosing my objectives of what I think would be the things to go ski or places to go learn on an avalanche course. And then we head out in the mountains, and it's pretty much an active day all day. I mean, as a guide, I'm aware that I have the freedom and the responsibility to dictate the pace of the day a little bit.
Okay.
But it's not like necessarily there's lunch break stops, all that kind of stuff. So, and I've probably trained myself over 20 years. Like, I continuously actually have some clients remind me like, hey, can we stop and eat and
That
drink?
would
And
be
I'm like,
me.
oh
That would be
yeah, I'm
me.
like, oh right. Like, other people don't do this every day. And I think it's just built up a little bit of an endurance and stamina from 20 years of that, to be honest. Not specific training to it. I should probably always drink more water. I definitely don't drink enough.
We all do.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. And food and nutrition, I I uh I don't subscribe, I guess, to any certain specific type of diet. I haven't eaten red meat honestly in 35 years, and that's probably another story. You can thank my mom for that one. But and I haven't had a drink of alcohol in 13 years, and that has done wonders, to be honest, for helping me continue to perform, into my mid 40s, where I feel better. Um, but I encourage folks to go out with me as well as myself is to just take some kind of easy to eat food along the way, nutrition, but also stuff that's kind of real food as well and is easily digestible and things like that. So, in the wintertime, a lot of that might not be bars and things because they tend to freeze and get quite cold. So I might bring things like eggs or small, like wraps, sandwiches, wraps, things like that with just meat and cheese. And I tend to try to eat just real food as
Sure.
much as possible, and a thermos of tea, hot tea, and some water. And then what I've had a hard time doing is then my days will end around 4 or 5, and I'll come back and I've been go all day, and then I get home and then I get hungry.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
For
Sure.
some reason, when I'm in the activity, I'm not super hungry, but then I'll get hungry and I'll come home, and I've had to be more conscious of just filling the craving with whatever I can grab and eat real fast, because then I've learned, like, a couple hours later, I don't feel great. It's the evening time. I don't want to eat dinner. So I've learned to kind of prepare some stuff ahead of time that's like cooked food in the refrigerator that I can heat up like a quality meal that's real food, or go out and grab some, like, that's the great thing about Boulder is there's just like really good food all over.
Great
And
food. Yeah. Yeah.
I've started to look at nutrition as I've aged. I started to look at it a lot more as recovery fuel. And I think in the beginning, I looked at it a lot more as just like fuel.
Energy.
And
Yeah.
that, like, it was all calories. And I mean, I had my days of like living in Camp 4 in Yosemite and living off a 6-pack of Sierra Nevada Pale Ale and a thing of Pepperidge Farm cookies,
Yeah.
and climbing, day after day in Yosemite, and that was fine, and I could get away with it because it was calories. but now I've started to look at food much more as like the recovery health of it. And it really makes a difference to me of how I wake up feeling the next day to go do all the stuff again.
Our friend, I think Kelly Newland from Rad.
Okay.
Yeah, she'd
Okay.
be so proud of what you just said about recovery. Yeah, I'm gonna have to tease her later. Hey, can we talk a little bit about Lotus Alpine Adventures? I'd be remiss if we didn't, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, in my world, hospitality is the name of the game, right? And
Right.
it and there's no compromise, right, when it comes to serving others or helping others, and in terms of, um, how you engage with your customers. And I'd love you to talk a little bit about your business, but I'd also love to, hear from your perspective. What are those most important elements to run your business successfully so that you feel like you've done the best you possibly can? It's a business, but yet, like Stio and the way you've kind of lived your life as a guide, I'm sure that's kind of set up the foundation of the way you treat people in your business as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd love to talk about Lotus Alpine Adventures. It was born out of, so I owned Crested Butte Mountain Guides for almost 10 years in Crested Butte. And that was, I took that over in 2007. At that point was one of those reevaluation moments in my life. Like, can I make a living as a guide? Can I do this? And the owner came to me and said, "Hey, I'm going to sell the company. And do you want it?" And I was like, "No, can you come back to me in like 10 years when I'm ready?" And, obviously life happens when you're not ready, so to speak. Um, and, I took, I basically had a bunch of clients and family support me and buy the thing for me, and was owner financed, and they all believed in me more than I did. At the time, I was 30 years old. I didn't know a thing about running a business. I just knew that I knew the business itself, like what the product was, and I had a passion for it, but I knew nothing else about running a business. And I was successful. I sold it to Irwin Guides, 11 Experience at Stone Crested Butte. And I learned a ton along the way, but it was like a fire hose for me. And because I was in some financial debt at the same time, I felt like that hung over me heavy. And I wasn't able to quite run that company the way I wanted to. I couldn't quite be creative enough or personal enough or like a boutique enough with it because I had a little bit of financial pressure there. And in hindsight, when other friends of mine have asked me about taking over or starting guiding companies, and my advice from that situation has always been like, don't grow too fast. Um,
Okay.
to really like grow consciously. And I kind of put this pressure on myself to grow really fast. And so when I sold it, and I had the ability to found Lotus Alpine Adventures, it was like to start from scratch, from the ground, and kind of do it much more intentionally and a little bit slower, and more to allow a little bit more creativity on exactly what I wanted to offer, how I wanted to offer it, what I wanted this to look like, um, and to just grow it slow enough. So because when I eventually sold Crested Butte Mountain Guides in 2014, I remember we were at the company. It was at a size, I think I had 10 employees and a full-time general manager. And when I would go guiding, my mind was running the business. And, and I was not fully present with my clients, which obviously has all its safety concerns I was aware of, but it was a little bit of just their experience too. But then when I was in the office running things, I just wanted to be outside guiding because I was still young. I was in my 30s, and I
Mm.
was, I kind of was like, I can have an office job anytime in my life. And I wasn't doing either of the things to my standard. And things were just a little bit too big. So that was part of the motivation to take an opportunity that came my way and start over. And with Lotus Alpine Adventures, it's allowed me to just be a little bit more intentional and slower, and therefore much more invested in each of the products that I offer. And it's less about scale and size and more about quality over the quantity, so to
I
speak.
love it. I love it. I just pulled it up for our guests too. If they're interested, lotusalpineadventures.com, right? And
Yep.
they can follow you at, am I okay to give your Instagram out? Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. That's how the world works these
It's
days.
awesome. Yeah, it is how the world works. Jayson.Simmons.Jones, Lotus Alpine Adventures. I absolutely love it. Hey, I've got a couple of things that I can't hold myself back. Being a Crested Butte, um, groupie like you. Hey, were you there when they painted the street blue, Main Street or Elk Avenue? I
You
mean,
know, I was living there. I was actually in Europe at the time, so
okay,
I was in France that summer guiding. But I remember the Bud
the
Light
Bud
thing
Light
and
thing, yeah,
going to the street blue and all that.
that was insane. That was insane.
Yep.
So sometimes when I have fun conversations like this, I like to jump into, top three bands of all time. Have you ever seen High Fidelity with Jack Black? I mean, um,
No, I. Oh yeah, yeah,
yeah, if you haven't,
totally.
you got to watch it. So anyway, so top three bands, Crested Butte, or I don't even care if they're from Crested Butte. Mine are from Crested Butte, but top three bands that you've seen in Crested Butte.
Um, I saw. Let's see. I've seen JJ Grey and Mofro at the Center for Arts when they would have their like
Yeah, yeah,
free Monday evening concerts years ago, and that was pretty amazing. Out on the lawn with the whole town
beautiful.
for
Yeah.
free. So that one's up. That one's up there. I remember seeing John Popper
No
from Blues
way.
Traveler
No
at the
way.
Eldo.
Oh my gosh.
Uh, yeah, he played in the Eldo, which holds like
Yeah,
100
yeah,
people. It seems like,
yeah.
and
I
that
saw
that
them
was
in
definitely up
Vail
there.
when John was big, right? When John was really big. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And I didn't know who they were.
yep,
Yeah, that
yep,
that's a good memory. That's a good memory.
amazing. And then um, God, I feel like I maybe saw the Allman Brothers up at Rafters, I believe, way back in the late
When they
'90s,
were
early 2000s.
when they were getting old.
And
I think they played it. I think they played at Western as
yeah,
well. You know,
yeah, I remember the
yeah.
sound quality was horrible in that building.
Isn't it great? I mean, now people know that
Um,
Crested Butte, is a place to be. My top, I cooked for Big Head Todd and the Monsters once,
oh
because I
wow,
had a restaurant on the east side of Gunnison, and String Cheese Incident, who was just
of
in
course,
Boulder this summer. No, they were at Red Rocks. They were at Red Rocks this summer. And then you ever hear of Eco Mouse? They were kind of a funky
I
reggae
didn't,
band.
I didn't
And
know them.
they played at Rafters all the time. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, maybe that was
See,
before my
see,
time.
we're
All right,
yeah. I'm a little out there in front of you, but
yeah,
Crested Butte, skiing, great restaurants, fun restaurants. I mean, Soup's on. How long will that place stay open? I mean,
yeah, yeah.
unbelievable,
And
unbelievable.
that's another one that it's I mean, to me, the soup on thing is like it's not just the food, it's the experience there. In
It's
that restaurant,
unbelievable.
they have two seatings. You have this tiny little old miner's cabin.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
like the whole atmosphere of the thing is what I think really makes it so unique and special.
It's absolutely beautiful. Yeah, all of Crested Butte really is. I mean, like I said, I can remember when there was no high school there. I mean, they've really,
Yeah.
really, really expanded. Hey,
Yeah.
but buddy, Jayson, this has been unbelievable. I'm not going to let you go until you answer one more question. The name of the
All righty.
podcast is The Ultimate Dish. And so I like to ask people, in your mind, what is the ultimate dish?
Oh man. The ultimate dish. We're talking food here. Um,
Or experience or memory, anything, right? It's sitting around the table with family. We didn't even talk about that if food was a big thing in your family growing up. Should have talked about that.
the irony of it is I actually shared with my family. I was home over New Year's for my dad's 80th in New York that I was going to be on this Ultimate Dish podcast.
Oh, no
And
way.
my younger sister has her own catering company, and my whole family is foodies. My younger brother lives in New Orleans, and I'm probably the least foodie of the whole family, just because I'm never really around much of a kitchen anymore these days. But
But you're the first to be on
um,
a podcast about
yeah,
food.
it's the irony of it all.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
it'll air in
amazing.
a few weeks and they'll be able to watch it. But yeah,
When I think to answer your question, I guess when I think of the ultimate dish, I think of multiple experiences I've had, but they're all centered around that kind of food and or family and friends. I think of one Thanksgiving when I was new in Crested Butte, and we had one of those friendsgivings in the
yeah,
neighborhood there.
yeah.
I was young in my 20s, and we all went and skied Mount Emmons or Red Lady Bowl. This was back when it would snow a ton on Thanksgiving, and I remember dropping in with some friends and skiing this, 3,000-foot backcountry ski run above town, and the sun was setting. So everything was in like pink Alpine glow. And I remember it felt like skiing through cotton candy. And
Oh my
then we all
gosh.
get down the trailhead and it's dark, and we go to this Thanksgiving dinner with like 30 friends, and we're exhausted but happy, and it's just this like gathering of like a warm place to be, and warm hearts, and everybody's having fun. And I think I had so many. I still have friendsgivings actually in Crested Butte, and I've met people around the world in the mountains that I've actually connected with. Like, oh, I was at that Thanksgiving in Crested Butte, and I'm like, really, you were? You don't even live there, and we crossed paths. And so I think ultimate dish for me is experiences like that. I think about when I went through a phase of learning to surf in Mexico and getting completely humbled and thrashed in the surf, and then coming back with a small group of friends and having like, fresh street tacos and tortillas that were made right there, and just like sitting on the beach at sunset and just feeling content. Where it's like it brings people together. And so I guess to me, the ultimate dish is something like that. It's like a closing to an experience that just leaves you feeling content with how the day went, the people you're with, where it's just like, and it's all kind of centered around, that gathering.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm chilling, and I'm tearing up. I mean, skiing through cotton candy. Are you kidding me? It could very well be the best articulation of the ultimate dish that I've ever heard. Absolutely beautiful, Jayson. Gosh.
Amazing.
Love it. Love it. You're a storyteller, and I know that you do some writing and stuff, but really, really impressive. Thank you so much for joining us today. And by the way, come to the school anytime, buddy. If you want to, we do community cooking courses. You just shoot me a note. We're on Eventbrite. Yeah, I'd love for you to come on down.
Oh, I would love to check it out. It'd be amazing. And
we'll fatten you up.
It would be amazing. I would love it. And it's been a real honor and a pleasure. I really appreciate, like, the questions are super thoughtful, and it's always a learning experience for me to have to reflect on my own experiences too. So thank you so much for sharing a bit of what you do.
Absolutely. Thanks again, Jayson. And thank you for listening to the Ultimate Dish Podcast, brought to you by Auguste Escoffier School of Culinary Arts. Visit escoffier.edu/podcast, where you'll find any materials mentioned during the podcast, including notes, links, and other resources. You can also browse other episodes and subscribe.